Hello and welcome to The Football Influence, a show where we bring you exclusive insights and stories from the world of football as viewed by professionals within the industry. My name is Louis. Welcome to episode 3 of the show. My co-host tonight, as always, is Hashim. How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right, man. I'm all right. Really excited for this one. Big guest coming
very
on.
very special episodes. Tonight we're very happy to bring on Hassanane from IraqFootballPod. How are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm excited for this. Something a bit different to the kind of crazy podcast I usually put out.
Now, we're very happy to get this episode going after episode 2 with Fran. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. We're very happy to get this format back underway. A different approach for this one, but this is exactly what we're trying to bring in. So, Hashim, what was your objectives for tonight?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Hassanane, as many of you guys might know him, especially if you're Iraqi, you definitely know him. Probably even as an Arab in general, he's probably the biggest, Arab football page that's in English. Probably especially on Instagram. In the Iraqi community, very well known. In terms of your news for Iraqi football, he's the go-to on social media. I've known him for a few years now. But yeah, really excited to get to know his journey, the journey into social media, how he was able to grow, and really talk about Iraqi football as well, and how he contributed to any developments within that. So I think it's a very interesting episode we have ahead, where we're going to break down some really interesting topics with Hassanane.
No, I just add there very quickly. Like, I think Hashim's missed out a key element, which is I actually record my podcast with him. That's the element
Right.
that you have to clarify for the fans. So usually where I'm sat here, I've got Hashim right here next to me. We just divulge all the information about recent games, what's happening, etc. Hence the connection.
Yeah.
That's great. No, great to point out as well. And Hashim's obviously long experienced in the podcast industry, so it's great to have it all going tonight. So I guess great way to start it as well. So Hassanane, a very good story that you have to tell, and I think it starts off with obviously the overall image of you on social media. So I guess to kick us off, how is that for you at the moment? How's your routine with that, and what pleasure do you hold with social media, especially?
It's a tough question. I'll be real with you. If it wasn't for Iraqi football, I don't think I would be on any type of social media. I'll just be doing my own thing. But it's hard, like to be on several platforms, to be continuously working alone and putting out so many different tweets and Instagram posts and podcasts, videos, reels, and that's just part of it. The other part is just having those continuous relationships with the players where you're always in touch and you're trying to get the latest news, but you're also trying to maintain an element of friendship with them. It's very, very hard. It's very time consuming, and it's essentially a full-time job, which is hard to do when you already have another half full-time job. But it's something I love. I love helping Iraqi football. I like seeing Iraqi football progressing. I love being involved in football. I love football in general, and I love my country. So I see it as a way of me serving Iraqi football, serving Iraq. And like, a lot of these footballers are now my friends as well, like yesterday night I was chilling with Ali Al-Hamadi. We went to a mosque together. We were praying together. And, this for me now transcends any kind of content or whatever. Like, he's genuinely like my little brother. I know Ali Al-Hamadi now since he was 16. I knew Zidane when he was 14. Haidar, I think, when he was 13. So, like, with these players, they're my friends now. I chat to them on a regular. My connection with them is different to that of, let's say, a journalist to a player. These players trust me with everything. They tell me their deepest, darkest secrets. I get to know their parents, their families. I stay over at their houses. I've been to dinners and lunches with their families. So it's an amazing experience, but it's hard. It is very, very hard. And I think fans sometimes don't really understand the magnitude in terms of what goes into doing what I do, what goes into making a podcast, what goes into breaking exclusive news. There's a lot to it.
Yeah. Obviously, we've known each other for a while, and I know what you go through to get your content out there and the information and everything. And obviously, we want to go back to the roots of when it started off for you. And I know you're a big football fan in general, not just obviously Iraqi football is obviously number one, but you're a big football fan in general. So when you started off thinking, I'm going to take this seriously as a profession maybe as well, what was the overwhelming factor why you decided I'm going to focus my platform entirely on Iraqi football and not maybe, because, you know, as a social media creator, you probably have a higher ceiling if you're just doing general football content. So what was the differentiating factor?
So to give you some context, I used to love football. I'm falling more and more out of love with football as football becomes more and more tactical. And I don't know, you see nowadays we're transitioning from football being take a million touches with tiki-taka to now watching Arsenal win via UFC, the Premier League potentially. Okay, like this is not the football I grew up watching. This is not the football that I love. You know, I grew up watching Ronaldo, Nani, Giggs. I'm a massive Man United fan. So I always loved football. I knew I wanted to be involved in football to some capacity. But when I was doing my A-levels and even when I went to university, I was not sure about what I wanted to do. So I started writing about football. You know, I started writing for some big Man United blogs at the time. Blogs were the big thing. Some huge channels. Even now, the that podcast thing is called the Stratford End, the one with Jay Motti and these guys. So I used to work with Jay on his blog. I used to write for all these big channels. But there came a point where I thought, you know, I'm putting all this time and energy into it, but there's so many people doing United content. Why am I doing the same? And around that time, it was the beginning of expats starting to join the Iraqi national team, but they had zero backing. Now, for me, Iraq's always been a huge part of my life. You know, I'm born in London. I grew up in London my whole life, but I've never really fitted in as an English person, as an Englishman. I've always seen myself as an Iraqi, and that's more to do with the culture and heritage that we have in the house, my name, my language, the way I look. Never really fitted into English culture. Although I'm very grateful to be born here and all the perks that comes with that. I'm not denying that. But my connection has always been that to Iraq. And for a lot of guys growing up in similar circumstances to me, Hashim, you'd be able to relate to this. Like you're Iraqi, but you've very rarely been to Iraq, especially back then where the situation was horrible. And you've heard of this concept of Iraq, but you might have never even been there. You might not even speak the language. So football's always been our outlet to have that connection with our homeland. Okay, so I wanted to kind of help others who maybe didn't speak Arabic to have that connection, to have news about their national team, to give Iraqi football a platform on a global scale. Before, if you go online, only things you ever see regarding Iraqi football, and even now to some degree, if it wasn't really for my page, in terms of English content, it's always written from, oh, Japan played Iraq and Japan played very well. Iraq also did so and so. Like it's never about Iraq. We're just the kind of third party involved in that conversation. Okay. So I was like, okay, we need to change this. We need to give Iraq a platform where people can learn about Iraq. I want to have a page where Iraqis abroad can learn about Iraqi football, to have that love for their country via football, because we love football as Iraqis. And the best way to do that is through making content. So I started off in 2015. I think it was November, October. I messaged a footballer called Osama Rashid, who was playing at that moment at a club called Santa Clara, in the Azores in Portugal. Okay, top player. Messaged him on Twitter, and I was like, bro, I'd love to interview you. Can you agree to do an interview with me? And I was shocked. He was like, yeah, let's go for it, bro. And here we are 10 and a half years later, you know, where I am pretty much the voice of every single Iraqi expat player. I've been on countless TV interviews to talk about Iraqi football, ranging from BBC to Al Jazeera to hopefully tomorrow my article is going to be where I've been interviewed, not my article, an article where I've been interviewed will be out on The Athletic. So I'm now able to give Iraqi football that voice where I can represent Iraq. I can give our opinion rather than letting people who have no business talking about Iraqi football give their opinion on us. So yeah, I'm very happy to to have this opportunity, and I'm hoping to continue growing the platform, to continue being a voice for Iraqi football, and just trying to enjoy the journey.
Yeah, that's great and really motivating, I think, for especially the people following that'll have that understanding of so not necessarily the biggest footballing nation, but with such a big fan base and such a big following, especially outside of the country, and being able to bring that element, I think is, I mean, you can already tell from the way you speak, the passion and everything that aligns with what you want to do with that. And I mean, I guess, because it's interesting that obviously, you started off, seeing Man United content, more things focused on the UK, and as you mentioned as well, like Iraq on mentioned at the forefront of news outlets and things, especially with even results and stuff like that. So, I guess, did that come with a bit of backlash in the beginning? How's your experience been on that level within social media? Has that been, I guess, a challenge to overcome, especially in the early years?
I want to say backlash, but I will say the starting years are always very, very hard. It's a matter of just putting out content. Like, I remember writing web articles on my website and
Mm.
then begging people to share it. Like my friends, forwarding it to them on, this is when like Facebook was actually something that people used, posting on Facebook. Can you share this? Can you like? Can you? No one really does it. Even like your close friends, because at that time, who's this Iraq football podcast page? Like, I don't really care, so people don't really support you when you need the support. People will start giving you the likes and props once you've made it. And they'll be like, oh yeah, I used to follow you for like 10 years ago. I was like, were you liking my content then? Were you sharing my stuff? Sometimes, to be fair, they do, but the starting point is always hard, man. It took me honestly, about 5 years to really make significant progress with the content. To the point that even in my personal life, bro, like it led to the point where I got a divorce because my ex-wife was saying stuff like, oh, I want to spend time with you, I want to watch TV, but I just moved to Dubai, I was starting a new job teaching. This was when my football stuff was blowing up. So you're working 2 full-time jobs, man. You're working, you're coming home, you're working again, you're sleeping. And that had a big impact. It wasn't ideal, but for me, like as bad as it sounds, football comes first. This is a way for me to serve my country. This was a way for me to grow the football stuff, to be where it is now. And yeah, it's a challenging thing, but if you want something, you'll make it happen. And here we are.
Yeah, no, you're bang on. And to be fair, time wise as well, like with everything you're saying, um, because your content is also very informative and analysis based, and other than you're doing just like generic game shows, which a lot of podcasts and a lot of people on social media follow, like sort of an entertainment route. You're not just doing the social media, you're also doing the research, you're doing the conversations with players, you're trying to get the news. So you're on top of all the social media stuff, also having another job, which is the journalist side of things as well. So obviously I know a lot of podcasts, like I said, focus on, let's say, talking about the games on the weekend, or their social medias emphasizing on game shows, but yours is very informative, very analytical, very news based. So that was your niche and you've kind of pursued that. What has been the outlook for the future and how you look at your social media space and everything you do in terms of, you think, am I a journalist or a social media creator? How did you balance the two?
I would never classify myself as a journalist, because a journalist's job is to post anything that's interesting and informative. But like, I know the maddest things about footballers. There are footballers in the national team who have stuck out at 3 a.m. to go get a burger with. You know what I mean? So like, if I was a journalist, I'd be exposing those particular articles. But I don't see it as that. I see myself more as a content creator, where I'm just with my friends. I'm like, these footballers, a lot of them are my friends. Like, some of them have been to my brother's wedding, for example. And some of them have stayed over at my house. Kevin Yaqub, when he was injured, he was here in my house every day. I was helping him brush his teeth, helping him take a shower because he couldn't move. Um, like, I see myself as their friend first and foremost. And then I see myself as a content creator who tries to inform people about football. And I say this in the most respectable manner to a lot of fans, but most fans and most people do not really understand football.
Mm.
And I try to get them to understand, the many variables involved in football, the factors involved in football. And I don't really think it's the fans' fault. It's just they've not been exposed to what I've been exposed. Like when you know 100 footballers, when you chat to as many footballers on the scales that I have, ranging from someone as experienced as Renee Mullenstein, who's worked with the great Sir Alex Ferguson, to talking to Ali Hamadi, who's been all through the English pyramid, to people who have played in Sweden, to Australia, to the Middle East, and so on and so forth. Like, you get exposed to a lot of stuff that the average fan doesn't know about football, doesn't take into account even that this happens to a footballer. But alongside that, also, I constantly listen to football. So whether I'm watching United games, I'm watching Premier League games, Champions League games, Champions League not so much, since we can never qualify for it as United fans, but I'm always listening to, whether it's the Rooney's podcast, Paul Scholes and Nicky
Yeah.
Butt. I'm listening to Alan Shearer. I'm listening to Rio. Like, I'm continuously taking all this information. That gives you a much more holistic understanding of football. And when you have that understanding, when you've sat and talked to footballers and you've seen them after they lose, what they do when they go home, how they celebrate what they do, how their mum and dads are, what their stories are, what their family stories are, how they deal with the pressures, it makes things very different for you. Like, I'm not who I am 10 years ago because I've had these experiences. I've had these conversations. I've seen what happens when a player gets annoyed because I've said something, even if it was non-controversial. But you realize, man, like, these footballers really do take stuff personally. Or these footballers really do go out and search their names if they have a bad game. And it just puts football into context as a fan. And I'm trying to relay this across to the fans. Fortunately for me, for whatever reason, the fans, a lot of them really buy into what I say. Like, when I say something, it really has a big influence in terms of the narrative. So I'm very grateful for that. But it also shows me that I'm doing something right, because the fans know I'm not just making stuff up. I'm not doing this as someone just trying to, like, get likes, get followers. No, I'm doing this for the love of the game. I really want to progress Iraqi football. I want to grow Iraqi football. The more followers I have, the more likes I have, the better for me, obviously. But that's not what it's about for me. I'm here to serve Iraqi football. I'm here to serve my country.
I think that speaks volumes, and to be honest, that is kind of the motto of what we're trying to pursue on this show, which is exactly that. The fan's perspective is pretty much never the real perspective of football and the intricacies within the industry. And for you to already have that experience and having, as you say, been around players, been around football in a different way, where, yeah, as you say, it starts off as a fan, but then it just gets into much more personal territory where yeah, you become friends with certain players and you're around that environment in a complete different way. And I think that, as I said, speaks volumes. And has that been a satisfaction for you to, so you're not doing it for the likes, you're not doing it for the exposure on that side of things, but has it therefore been a satisfaction to see how well you've been doing with that within this very specific section of the industry and having those relationships? Is that something that you look back on and think, wow, okay, yeah, I've done really well?
No doubt. Like, when you think about it, I was thinking this the other day, actually. I was thinking about my older brother, who he was a big influence in terms of why I love football so much. My two older brothers, they're 10 and 9 years older than me, so there's a big gap there. Growing up, and going into their room, they had pretty much like a life-size poster of Eric Cantona. And they had all the squad from the 94-95 season, the United season. I'm talking, maybe you guys don't even know who these names are, like Paul Ince, Mark Hughes,
Yeah, we know.
Yep.
Andy Cole, etc. The big names. And that made me really fall in love with United. I remember like being 3, 4 years old, telling them, "No, I'm Peter Schmeichel. Like, I used to be a goalkeeper before I got injured, disgustingly." But like I really used to love football, playing football, watching football. And I was thinking, you know what? Like, it's mad. I went from that to now being involved in football. And 2 days ago, my best friend messaged me saying, "Oh, Renee Mullenstein just said something about Iraqi football. Did you know he's assistant manager?" He's saying this to me, like, "What world are you living in, mate?" So I was like, "Bro, yeah." I just sent him a picture. His name's Goran, my best mate. Just sent a picture of me sat with Renee Mullenstein, and I was like, "Yeah, bro, I know." So I was deep in. I was like, "Man, how did I go from like just being this little kid obsessed with football, talking about it constantly with my best friend and my brothers, to now here being so heavily involved in it?" It's an amazing journey. I'm very, very grateful for it. But that journey is just beginning, man. 10 years is nothing. I'm planning to do more, hoping to grow the channel more, hopefully have more influence on Iraqi football. The main thing now is that the FA, last couple of years, the managers themselves are well aware of me, my influence, what I do. And they know I want to help, which is why they trust me. Like people from the FA, from the management team, I'm not going to mention names just for the sake of it, but like they will message me, "Hassan, what do you think of this player? I heard that this player is available. What do you think? What do you think about him? Is he worth inviting over?" The fact that like professional national team coaches or assistant coaches will message me and ask me for my opinion is a huge compliment. At the same time, you have people from the Iraqi FA messaging me, asking me to support changing the narrative, for example. So if something needs to be said, let's say players getting a bad rep by fans in the media, um, the FA might contact me saying, "Hassan, can you just post something to get the fans to kind of ease off on this particular player?" Or, "Hassan, we need support with X, Y, and Z." And they'll just hand it to me. "Listen, here, we know you. You know how you do your thing. Sort it out for us." So for me, this is a huge honor. It's another way I can serve the Iraqi football community and just Iraq in general, because if Iraqi football's doing well, Iraqis back home are happy. If Iraqis are happy, I'm happy.
Yeah. Obviously, that's the main priority always. But that's the thing that comes with a lot of pressure, I'm assuming as well, because you us coming from a social media background, you're coming from the love of the country and everything. And like you said, a lot of these players are, your friends, and a lot of them you have family ties with, you have really close relationships with. So when, for example, you feel like I'm so influential that the federation are coming to me, clubs are coming to me in Iraq, parents of the players are coming to me, specifically to me, because they realize my influence. They realize what I can provide to the country, what I can provide to Iraqi football, everything. Because obviously, like you said, you come from a teaching background. You said as a 4-year-old, you were hoping to be a goalkeeper, but that dream got shattered quickly, I'm assuming, of being a footballer. But
Yeah.
so you knew that, you wanted to work in football in some way eventually in the future, but did you ever think like, okay, now I'm having to do stuff for the federation. I'm having to do some serious things that are influencing Iraqi football, not just with my platform, but with my work. How do you take that on board with you?
I don't see the pressure in terms of, "Oh, this is a big responsibility." For me, more the pressure is, how do I balance my job as a head of department of business studies at a very big sixth form to now go in gym, to now also having to put out content on a fairly regular basis. That for me is the pressure in terms of time constraints. But is it pressure in terms of the FA's asking me? No, this is something I love. But I would argue one area of pressure would be um, making content whilst maintaining your relationship with the players, but also your integrity. I never want to be someone that comes out and says, "Oh no, this player played good and he had a stinker." But also, you don't want to come out and say, "This player is dreadful. He should never wear the national team shirt again." And the next day, you're calling him on Snapchat. I mean, it's very hard to kind of do that, to have that relationship. It's finding a balance there between integrity and honest content versus having that friendship with a footballer and, let's say, his family, his parents, and the FA as well. If the FA trusts you, you can't come out and then just rip into everyone saying, "Oh, that was crap. We should have qualified early from the World Cup. That was a mistake to hire this manager, etc., etc." You need to be a lot more diplomatic, and this comes with time. To be fair, like you realize what kind of content you can put out, what you can't put out.
Yeah. And you feel like, for example, as well, because your niche is obviously Iraqi football, and even when I look at a lot of other channels, for example, Arab-based Iraqi channels in social
Yeah,
media and stuff, none of them really focus purely on Iraqi football, like especially with their face involved. Like you do a podcast, you do some of the information pages, but they're not like that. Your blend of your public image being you as well as the information is not something that's seen in the space. So you're also representing yourself, not just your channel. Like as Hassanane, they're coming to you as Hassanane, not just the Iraqi
yeah.
football pod. So you've come into the space and you've had the relationships with the FA. Has that broadened your horizon to what you can do with yourself further than social media in terms of influence in football?
Well, I would say in terms of my self-belief, the fact that I've done this all via hard work has given me the confidence to really trust myself with whatever it is that I get to do. So I'll give you an example. 5 years ago, there was a camp for both the under 23 for Iraq and the main team in Iraq. They had a game Iraq were playing. I think it was Syria in Dubai, and the under 23 team also had a cup there called the Dubai Cup, and they were taking part. So the hotels were like 2 rows down from each other. So I was chilling with the under 23s at the time. So at that time I was with Alexander Oraha, former QPR player, and Cardo Sadiq, the former Crystal Palace defender. There were a few other boys there. Hiran was there, Dosky was there, Martin Haddad was there, but they went out to eat. So I literally just took Cardo and Alex. I was like, listen, we're going to go to the first team. I want to introduce you guys to Zidane Iqbal and Ali Al-Hamadi, who were with the first team. They'd never met until this point. One of the things I take the most pleasure with is getting these footballers to meet each other, to have that network amongst themselves. I was the one who brought Zidane Iqbal and Ali Al-Hamadi together, that first introduced them. I was the one who brought Alex to meet Ali or whatever. I'm the one who makes these players come, link up, we go for dinner together. I'm that kind of the common piece amongst all of them that draws them into that friendship circle initially. Because I think it's very important as footballers to have those relationships. So I literally took Alex and Carla, we walked there, and I went into the hotel in the lobby. I still can't believe I did this. Imagine the entire first team squad was there. Adnan Darja, the Iraqi FA president, was there. I just took the 2 players. I introduced them. Captain Adnan Darja, I'd like you to meet Alexander Oraha, Kader Sadiq, the players from under 23. He had no idea who they are. So I started introducing them to each other. This is the first time I've ever met the FA president. But I was there like he was my dad or my uncle, like, and just introducing him. And then I took them one by one to meet the players. This is Amjad Atwan, the Iraqi captain. This is Ayman Hassan. I have all the videos from now. Like even after that happened, Adnan Darja, the FA president, ordered the media team to come and take a picture of the entire squad with Alex and Cardo here. Again, I still have the images. Like I sent you guys to see as proof. And they posted it on their media channel saying, "Oh, these 2 players have come to wish good luck to the national team." Not really. I brought them there so they can meet Alex, so they can meet Zidane and Ali. But again, like just looking back at it now, thinking the audacity to do something like that. So yeah, like you get confidence from knowing you're able to create a channel like this, to make engaging content, to get people to actually listen to you and believe you and really like your content. That does give you a lot of self-confidence, a lot of self-belief, and that does resonate in different parts of your life, whether it's meeting people, even in my teaching, to be honest with you. It's great.
Yeah, I mean, again, like the story that kind of originates from something different, then you can turn it into something that makes it valuable for you, and then obviously the federation, the players themselves. So yeah, I mean, I think that's also a powerful message that sends out to just the general audience to do with football, where, you know, you can make it, you know, whatever you create and whatever you actually want to make out of it is in your hands and your decision. And I think that's amazing. And I'd say maybe what was your first like connection with a player then? Like how did that even start in the sense where, you know, obviously you're now very close to many players, and trust is a very important thing in football, especially with players and well, obviously federations and at that level as well. However, yeah, how did that first encounter go for you? What were you feeling when you first met a player that you knew
Yeah.
was, you know, quite high level?
The first time I ever reached out to a player was Osama Rashid from the Portuguese league. Um,
Hmm.
he agreed to do an interview. The interview went well. It was kind of basic, you know, your first ever interview. You're not really sure about the kind of questions. And then my website was launched. People started to read my content. And then for some reason, I was in London at the time, and my friend, so a little bit of background. When I was in college, my nickname was Neshat Hassan because my favorite footballer was Neshat Akram. So I just had my Facebook name as Neshat Hassan. The number one, remain kind of anonymous, but number two, I love Neshat Akram, the Iraqi vice captain. He played at Utrecht, not Utrecht, sorry, FC20 in Holland. He was very close to signing for Manchester City in 2007. But his work permit didn't go through, so he couldn't really sign for them. But he's a superstar, amazing footballer, probably one of the best Iraqi footballers there will ever be. So I used to love him. And then my friend messaged me saying, you love Nestakram, right? I was like, yeah, why, what's up? He was like, Neshat's in London. I was like, no way. He was like, yeah, bro, listen, he's in London. I just played football with him. I was like, you're having a laugh. I was like, you need to get me in touch with him right now. And I must have spent 2-3 hours just calling people just to be able to get myself to meet him. So I called one guy, and then Neshat answered. And I was like, Neshat, bro, I love you. I wanna meet you. I wanna do an interview with you. He was like, yeah, come down. So I turned up with my notepad and my dictaphone and my pen and everything. He was there with his baby and his wife, and I was like, oh, I thought it was going to be just me and you. But anyway, we sat down and I interviewed him, and it genuinely took about 2.5 hours. And I was asking him questions
Wow.
about stuff he'd forgotten about, because I just knew his whole life story in terms of he played for this club, I remember he scored this goal, and then this happened. How did that make you feel, etc. And then after it, he goes to me, he goes, Hassan, do you know what? I think that's the best interview I've ever had in my life. So when he said that, I was like, do you know what? I might be onto something here. If a player of his magnitude who's played where he's played tells me you're good at what you're doing, I was like, all right, let's keep doing this then. And just stuck to it. And the key really eventually came when I started to kind of follow the young players that we had growing up in the UK and Europe. So Zidane, Iqbal, for example, I mentioned earlier, or Ali Al-Hamadi, these guys were like really young, man. So I kept an eye on them, and because I'm in London and England, I was fortunate enough to go and watch their games in person. I've got like a picture of me with Ali Al-Hamadi when he was 16 playing at Swansea against Reading. And he's a baby, man. You look at him, he looks really young, and he was really young. But I was there trying to support them, going even like winter games. I remember Ali had a game against Fulham once away against still at Swansea. I think he just turned 17 now, and it was so cold and wet. But you see the picture of just me and standing next to him on the bus, like freezing. And once the players saw, like, I'm actually serious, I'm not posting anything malicious, I'm just there to help them. Their parents started to see that about me. You got the ball rolling. And yeah, now pretty much every single footballer in the Iraqi diaspora, I've got at least some sort of connection with. Like just the other day, man, you know, Yusuf al-Nasrawi plays for Bayern Munich. I'm the one who got him the paperwork done to get him to represent Iraq. Like for me to say, okay, we have a young player at Bayern Munich, and because of me, he wants to represent Iraq. I've made it happen in terms of the paperwork. The coaches didn't even know who he was. Now they're aware. Like it's a sense of pride and joy for me. Because if this guy comes out and has a sick career with Iraqi football, like for me, it's extra special. This is the young kid who I've been following since he was again 16, and now hopefully he's going to be one of the players to maybe represent Iraq in the World Cup or maybe 2027 Asian Cup. So it's a huge honor.
We hope so. We hope so.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah. No, but the thing is, this is why I say with you, you're such a unique asset to Iraq as a whole, because you're basically in scouting, you're doing player care liaison, You're doing social media
PR,
marketing, propaganda for the
PR,
national team.
yeah,
You're doing
PR,
PR,
yeah.
journalism. You're doing like 5 different jobs all at once, and you're
yeah,
doing it for the love of the game. Like you're doing it for your own like benefit and for your own interest. And the thing is, you know, Louis has a background in like player liaison. He's worked in player care and that, and he understands obviously. And I've worked as an agent, so obviously we've worked directly with players, and we understand like what you were saying, how specific players are and how much you have to be there supporting them. And you obviously understand it from working with players like Ali when they're 15, 16, all the way up to now, what you're seeing and how they've developed, and you've seen what they were like in the academy, and now he's Premier League level player that's played in the Premier League recently, and you've built that relationship with them. So in terms of players, and you know, you've worked with players that are like, as you said, like Neshet, who's like won everything with Iraq, and he's, you know, an experienced senior player and born in Iraq, compared to someone like Ali, who's, you know, raised here through the English football system and everything like that. How have you found your treatment being different, for example, when you deal with players or people in Iraq, born in Iraq, raised in Iraq, living there, and how you've dealt differently with the expats, for example, that you said have grown up here?
yeah. So one thing that really separates me from a lot of these other channels, because there are a lot of channels with more followers, but their influence is nowhere near as much as mine, is that number one, I'm one person and I'm a face behind or in front of the page. It's not just a page that is anonymous and no one really like knows who that is. Because I'm a person and the fans know me, they know my name, they know my background, they know my beliefs. It's something that allows me to connect with the players directly. And I'm in a unique position also in the sense that I'm Iraqi, very like familiar with my culture, but I'm born in the West. So you have players like Ali Hamadi and Zidane and Alex or whoever, Dosky. These are all players born in the West, lived their whole life in the West. I can connect to them on that particular level of I also grew up in the West. I know what they're going through. I know the challenges they faced. My humor's similar. My interests are similar. But at the same time, I can go back home and connect with the local players because I am also very Iraqi in how I think and how I talk and my language and all these other variables. So you can say it's the best of both worlds. So that flexibility allows me to connect with both, and it comes in handy. But the problem you have there with the local players is that they're very skeptical of any media channel that looks to approach them, especially when some guy comes from abroad. They look at you thinking, "Oh, what does he want?" A lot of media channels in Iraq are not there to serve Iraq. They're there to get likes and interactions and comments, and they publish horrific stuff against players. A lot of it is uncalled for, unnecessary, unjustified, and the players take that very cautious approach when it comes to the fans. They are reluctant to give interviews, reluctant to have that same relationship. Not all of them, but the majority of them. And I don't take it personally. I understand it. But I fortunately, I don't have that same issue with the Western lot because, again, I knew them when they're young. They talk, they tell each other, no, listen, Hassanane's safe. That builds a network. The players end up following you because they reach out to you. They want stuff from you. They would like you to share content. They tell you in terms of like certain information that they want to get out of there. So it's a bit easier with the expat diaspora players, but there are challenges, especially with the local lot.
Yeah, I think, and that kind of links back to one major topic that you know I think we're going to be talking a lot about in general on the channel, but also with what you're outlining here. I think is the culture mainly, and so I think that that's also a very important position that you have. Whereas you know you're understanding the Western side, having grown up in it, and obviously you know been around it your whole life, but you also understand the needs back home and where the differences lie there. And I think that that also is a key element when it comes to, as Hashim was alluding to, you know, when you have to deal with different federations or when you have to deal with different environments that are sometimes, you know, foreign, understanding that culture difference is a key element. And I think, yeah, seeing where that's led you, and I think where you've been able to balance both worlds essentially, because it is obviously a different way of seeing things, especially within football with federations and everything. So Have you always been trying to train your cultural kind of adaptation skills and your understanding, especially in those contexts?
So to be completely honest, um, when I first started the page, I was very reckless. I was saying stuff that I shouldn't particularly have said. It was more like a kind of, let's say, a podcast that you'd record in a pub. I don't drink, but you know, the kind of atmosphere where everything goes is very
Mm.
funny. It's kind of lads just discussing whatever. But as I got more involved with players and I started to learn more about how football really is, how footballers really are, the impact of what I'm saying, then you start to realize, hang on a minute, no, actually, there's a real consequence to me saying what I said there. I shouldn't have said that. This was a mistake. I need to be more diplomatic when I say this or that or that. So this is why I go back and say I don't judge the fans for not knowing this stuff. There was a time when I didn't know this stuff. So I'm trying to teach the fans, actually, no, listen, you can't really say that because this is the impact it has, or this is what the players think. This is from the players' perspective. This is why you're wrong to say this as a fan. It's not an attack on the fans. Like, a lot of fans don't know stuff, not just Iraqi fans. I mean, 90%,
Mm.
95% of fans don't have a clue when it comes to football. That's the sad reality of it. Because football is a bubble. And then unless you're in that bubble, in that kind of little environment where really in football everyone knows everyone, you have no idea what's happening
Yeah.
inside that environment looking from outside. Okay?
Yep.
So I've had to learn, I've had to adapt, I've had to change who I am. I've had to learn about the game. I've had to learn about human beings. Because these are, yes, they're footballers, but first and foremost, they're human beings. And I've had to learn from my mistakes also to get to where I am today. And yeah, the end result really is hopefully getting others to understand that. There's certain things that, you know, during my career, during my journey, stuff have stood out for me. For example, like I'm very tight to Ali Al-Hamadi. I love him. So two things he said just right now spring to mind. It was about 3 years ago when he first moved to Wimbledon. You know, he's from Liverpool. He's come down here. It was his birthday. I messaged him. What are you doing? What's your plan? Are you going out with your friends? Anything? He was like, no, I'm staying at home. I was like, I'm going to come to you straight after work. It was about a 2 hour journey from
Mm.
central London to, he was living in Walton upon Thames or something that I didn't even know existed because it's outside of the M25. So I drove out there. We just went to like this random Thai place. And I was like, listen, I was never going to let you have a birthday alone. Like realistically, you're celebrating this with me. And I invited them out. And I even made, when he went to the toilet, I made them bring him like a little cake and sing happy birthday. I think I've got the video somewhere of him just being like extremely shy. It was hilarious. But that really like stood out because people have this idea of these footballers, they're like superstars, they're always out. But actually, man, footballers are some of the most boring people you'll ever meet in your life, man. They go to training, they go home and they sleep. So like to organize anything with them, to go out with them is such a myth. But that was really interesting to see. And it changed my perception in terms of like these guys actually just like a lot of them are just kids. A lot of them just want to be at home sleeping. So um,
Yeah.
that was eye opening. The other thing that really stands out is something Ali said to me once about the difficulty of being a footballer. He was talking about his debut. This was when he was at Wickham. He made his League One debut about 4 years ago. He was just turned 18, 19, I think. He made his debut for Wickham against Bristol away. And I called him after the game or the next day. I was like, oh, I'm so tired. I was like, why? He was like, I couldn't sleep. I was like, what do you mean you couldn't sleep? He said to me, he was like, have you ever thought about what it's like being a footballer? You're in a stadium where there's 30, 40,000 people screaming, shouting, abusing you, singing your name or whatever. And then you leave the stadium and you go back to your house or your hotel room and it's just pitch black and it's dead silent. And you feel the kind of the walls just caving in on you like a coffin. It's like to go from that extreme where your adrenaline is 110% to go to this and you're just like, it's a late kickoff game. I think that game was at 8 o'clock. You'd get home at what, 12? He's like, bro, you can't sleep. You
Yeah.
can't sleep because you're here. Now you got to come back here. It's impossible. Now imagine when you're playing an international game or maybe a World Cup game or whatever. But there's certain stuff being a footballer, unless you've had that intimate conversation with a player, you would never have known this is even a thing that players experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, I'm privy to these conversations, these insights, but it's about getting the fans to understand this as well. Because it's really interesting. It's really interesting because this applies to all footballers. But also with Iraqi footballers, pressures are a bit different. Iraqis love football. It's one of the few things we really love and enjoy. And generally, it's been quite well recently. So fans are excited for football. And that puts added pressure on the footballers. Moreover, Iraqis love football so much. These footballers all have millions of followers. Like, it's very rare you're a League One player, as Ali is, with 1+ million followers, you know? So that comes with its own pressures. Especially, these guys are young. Like, Ali was 20, 21 with 1 million followers. Can you imagine how crazy that is? Imagine being a 21-year-old. Like, I'm 33 and I find it hard to deal with like the pressure that comes with my following. And there's nowhere near as much as this. Imagine being a footballer at that age, 21, and you're living alone and you have a bad game or you'll get into a rut or you're injured and then suddenly seeing like the world caving in on you. And it's hard. It's very hard for these footballers. So yeah, being an Iraqi footballer comes with added pressure, no doubt. But it also comes with perks, you know? It comes with perks. So I always tell the footballers, listen, you can't have the good without the bad. You know, you've got 1 million followers playing in League One. You have to also accept that's going to come with haters, with criticism, with pressures.
Yeah, look, like obviously as an agent, and even not just as an agent, but after we spoke with Fran Merida in the first episode, he's played at Arsenal, Atletico Madrid, top teams. You know, he's won the biggest accolades in world football, played with the best players in the world. He's only got like 30-something thousand followers, and like you have like some of our Iraqi boys who are playing either just in the Iraqi league alone or, you know, in League One, like you said, League Two level, and they've got hundreds of thousands of followers. So it's a different type of pressure. Those type of players that, like, for example, that played in Spain and maybe only had 100, 200K, but they played at a higher level, their pure pressure was mainly just from on the pitch and performing and stuff. But then we also understand in our culture and loads of countries, like I was going to mention this as well with the Indonesian market for you, but there's in certain countries, there's a huge social media following for anyone who goes anywhere near the national team level, is performing. For example, if we have a player playing in the Championship or Premier League, that's automatically all over. They're all talking about it because, like, it's a huge achievement to have a player that's played at that level. And that comes, like you said, with pressure on the player, the following increases, and there's a social media backlash, like you said. And you, like you said, had something similar because at times, for example, when the Indonesian market was something that you really were able to access at some stages because of your opinions and stuff you were talking about in the moment. That also came with a huge influx of opinions and people backing you and backlash and everything. Like, you felt something similar. So how did you deal with it?
I told myself the same thing I told the other players. You know, it comes with the territory. You don't like it, get off social media. It comes with the territory, bro. Like, this is 2026. If you've got a public platform, expect to get people that disagree with you. Expect to get abuse. This is the sad reality of this day and age where, unfortunately, because of anonymous accounts, people will have the audacity to come out and say horrible, horrific stuff to you. So it's part and parcel. It's to be expected. It's to be expected. And if you're not prepared for that, get off social media. That's just the sad reality of it. You know, you can't have it both ways. You can't have a 250,000 followers on socials and tell them, oh, listen, why are you guys sending me abuse? Well, no, you know, you have that following, you put your face out there, you make content daily. Don't like it, get off.
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting as well because from my experience, obviously, so I'm half French, so the way I interact with my national team is different. I mean, I'm half English as well, but I will say that in my earlier years, I did follow France a bit more on an international level, so that just the interactions with it was different than I guess, yeah, in this sense, you know. How so? Well, when you're from football culture in a way where it actually gets the whole country going, as opposed to just one section of the country or one section of the population within your country. That automatically has different repercussions. And I mean, look, I look back 2018, obviously, World Cup win for France, very special moment in the country, a very unified time, obviously, you know, with that. And yeah, everyone connected and it was a great moment. But the way I see it, especially with Iraq and you know, through the stories you've been telling us as well, it seems that, you know, you have that extra pull, extra attention on you, but in a very positive way. Obviously, as you mentioned as well, it can always be negative. There's always going to be a negative side to it. However, the way I see it, especially from that perspective, you know, growing up in France, etc., there'll never be that kind of feeling of, okay, well, this young player has made it to the national team. We're going to follow him, whatever the cost. We're going to, you know, follow his career. We're going to be all out for his, you know, development. And essentially your national team is really your pride. And I think that really is mainly the message, and correct me if I'm wrong, but from what you explain, you know, that's also the message you want to relay, especially here in England with the community that exists. But you want to propel the image and obviously defend the country, you know, outside of it. And that especially seems like the path that you've gone down in recent years.
No, I completely agree. It's interesting just hearing it from a different perspective because, you know, I don't really support England. I'll be real with you. I'm born here, but I don't have that same connection with the English team. I don't really feel like they represent me, so I don't really have that same following. But to hear that from a Frenchman's perspective in terms of what it's like following France, it's interesting for me. Like I always thought that what we have with Iraq is very similar with other cultures, but now you're telling me actually it's only a segment of the French populace that follow French football. It's interesting. It really contextualizes how crazy my country is at football. Like my mum has no interest in football whatsoever. But when Iraq play, like she's there asking, "Oh, what time's kickoff? When did you get into football?" But nah, man, she takes it seriously. You see, like aunties and uncles, like just sitting there with the Iraqi flags or whatever. But yeah, it just shows you how crazy Iraqis are about the game.
Yeah, it's true. And the thing is, like, this is why
Why are you hushing? Why are you telling me like, your mum and your grandma's are proper into football?
they're into actual, like, not just Iraq, like, they'll sometimes watch Madrid games when I'm not available and will report back to me how it was. And it's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy the influence football can get. And it's true, like you said, Iraqis have an innate love for football within them, even if it's just for the national team, but they have that love for it when it happens. Because at the end of the day, it's like you said, we've had so much turmoil history-wise and everything. Football was always that light that kind of distracted everyone from all the problems and everything in their lives. So I think that's the beauty of it. And the thing is, as I was saying, there's a lot of people and we live in a very multicultural society in England and London specifically. So there's a lot of people with roots that don't originate in England. They're from different countries and stuff like that. So if they're interested in the social media, you are really a prime example of what potentially they can reach if they just focus. Some people think there's a certain cap on, you know, just doing stuff for my country of origin. Like I need to do England because I have a higher ceiling, or I need to do general football because it's a higher ceiling. But they don't realize the special innate love that their original country probably has for football, and that huge audience that they can actually access if they did a specific focus on it and
I
develops
think
relationships.
that's right. That's definitely right. I agree with you. But I also would add to it and say, what's the point in doing something you haven't got a passion for? Like, if you're asking me, would I stop what I'm doing to talk about English football because there's more potential for it? Not a chance. It's got nothing to do with me. These players have nothing in common with me. But like yesterday, I was in the mosque with Al Hamadi. These guys are my little brothers. They represent me on the football pitch. I have everything in common with them. So it's my passion. And I want to represent these guys. I want to be their voice. I want to support them. But I'm never going to have that same relationship talking about Jack Grealish or whatever. So like if you're thinking of doing something similar and you're from Haitian background or from Curacao or Bolivia or whatever, don't think you should not do that because there's going to be a cap in terms of what you can achieve. Think about, number one, what it's going to mean for your country. Number two, what it's like to be a voice for your people. And number three, do it for the love. If it's something you're passionate about, if you love Bolivian football, go and do this for Bolivian football. And don't think, oh no, I'm better off writing about French football when like you don't really like French football. You need a passion for this. You need to love this because it is hard. It's hard. It's time consuming. It's effort. It's money. Just in 2 weeks, I'm supposed to fly to Mexico. 750 quid for a one-way flight just to watch a game of football. I'm insane for doing it, but I love it. I mean, I love it. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's what I'm saying. Exactly like you said, if you enjoy it and you have passion for it like you did, you made it work with Iraqi football and you've accessed this huge platform now because of your love and passion for it. So it's the same thing. It goes for anyone. Like we try obviously with the podcast to give fans, like you said, because their knowledge is so limited in this field, we're giving them now some insight into what potentially they can do with their careers and their lives and to understand football to a higher level. So if you have a passion for your home country, don't think, oh, I don't maybe have the audience for it. How am I going to access it? No, just go for it like you did. You're an English speaking channel. Obviously you transition into Arab content as well, but it's a predominantly English speaking channel. You've accessed the market of Iraqis around the world and you've been able to grow it to the level you're at now, and you're doing stuff for the national team. So there's a potential route and you don't need to be an ex-footballer to be able to go down that route. So I think it's a real big example of what potentially you can do when you chase your passion. But yeah, we have a segment in the podcast as well, Hassanane, that is 5 words basically we're going to give you, and we're doing it with all of our guests. 5 words or phrases, and the first thing that comes to your head.
Are you going to give me a prompt?
No pressure.
Or
I'm going to give you five words or phrases.
And I have to respond with it with
that
one
are probably
word.
related to what you're doing, or you have to respond with one word.
First, so the first one, quite simple. The first one is social media.
Headache.
That's fair enough. It's what it is.
Like I told you, man, I swear, it's because it's the Iraqi football stuff. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be on any socials. I'll be living in a shed somewhere off grid.
Yeah. So social media, yeah. This one again, mentioned it before, but football fans.
The word I'm looking for is uninformed. Uninformed. They don't know because they're not in that sphere. They're not in that. It's not their fault. Unless you're in that sphere, then you'll actually really understand how crazy football is.
Yeah, and we really got that message from your stories, especially being around players, being around federations, being around the environment, and exactly that, and that's also the point of the show, as I was mentioning earlier, the fact that at every level, the exposure you get is completely different. It's one bubble, as you mentioned, everyone knows everyone, but it's such a unique industry, really, and so, people that are outside of it won't understand some elements, and that's definitely making sense with what you said. The next one for you, Hassanane, is your childhood influence.
Sir Alex Ferguson. It's not one word, but it's one name. Sir Alex Ferguson for me is everything for me in terms of football. Yeah,
speaks for himself.
Yeah, I don't need to say more, man, about Sir Alex. Like everything in terms of what I love about football's come from Sir Alex. Everything I've learned about life in terms of working hard and dedication, being first on the training pitch, last to leave, grinding, never giving up. This is the GOAT of football. No one will ever come close to.
Yeah, legendary.
Yeah. The last 2 are big ones as well. And I think they'll spring a lot of emotions. But this one, let's say 2007 Asia Cup.
Peace. That was for me. So how old would you have been in 2007? You would have been
I remember because I was in Morocco. I was in Morocco and we watching it in the hotel room. But I was 7. Yeah, I was 7 when it happened.
So I don't know how much you don't remember of 2000 and I don't know if you remember what it was like in 2003 when the country was in absolute disarray. 2004, 2005, the start of the sectarian war. It's the most insane stuff ever. I remember it because my dad is insane. One of the best things he's ever done is in 2003. I was in Iraq. My dad took me to Iraq as soon as the regime was toppled. He was like, we need to go back. We need to make sure you guys have paperwork just in case anything happens in the future. We don't want anyone to say you guys are not Iraqis. So I was there in Iraq during the war, and then the sectarian war that followed, and then the 2007 Asian Cup victory against all expectations, and the way it brought peace and it unified the country in such a way that nothing else could have done it. No politics could have done it. No religious treaties could have done it. But football could, and that's what makes football special. And it goes back to what Harsha mentioned earlier in terms of football holds a special place for Iraqis. Nothing really comes close.
I think that's a beautiful message, as you say, and it ties back to, again, what I was mentioning with France. Obviously, completely different context, but it's true that, nothing comes close to that, as you say, when unfortunately you have external circumstances within a country, and when you have such a huge following with football, and that's the beauty of the game, as you say, everyone follows it, every generation follows it, everyone's got their own story with the sport, and the fact that you're in your position today to be able to develop it and obviously help the federation, help the players, and help with the positive exposure of football, I think it's a tremendous message, and I mean, it brings confidence and just positivity for the near future for federations like Iraq, and there are many in the world that have to go through external issues, and I think it's a very powerful message. So I suppose that ends it well for us with the final word for you, which is Iraq. What's the first word that comes to mind?
Home, I'm born in London, lived in London my whole life, but like I said, I've never felt English. I have a British passport. There's loads of things I'm grateful for being born in this country. Loads I've taken away from here. It's given me ample opportunities in a lot of senses, but once a year I have to go back to Iraq, just relax. Then I'm so much more at peace there when I'm in Iraq compared to anywhere else, especially my borough in Baghdad called Kazmiya. It's a very, very unique place. I go there, and even though I haven't got any family there, all my family left ages ago, but it still feels like home. There's this gravitational pull from Iraq that calls me back every year. And whenever I see pictures, I miss it. Whenever I have friends that go there, I think, man, I wish I was with you. So Iraq, yeah, maybe I'm a bit different to the Iraqis back home because of my upbringing, because of the way I dress, the way I talk, the way I joke around, whatever. But it'll always be my home, and this is just one of the ways that I serve it.
It's a beautiful way to put it, man. It's a beautiful way to put it, and genuinely, I think learning from all your experiences, I think a lot of people can draw a lot of conclusions and a lot of lessons from what you've been through and your journey, and in general, hopefully what they can draw from social media and from what they could potentially do in their careers, relationship based and being who they are. And this leads on to our final question for you, Hassan, and it's been a pleasure. This one might get you think a little bit, but it's our traditional question we always end it on, and it's, if you were standing in front of your 18-year-old self, what would you tell him?
It's specifically to Iraqi football and what I'm doing right now.
Just in general in your life, lessons, and just anything you would tell the first thing you tell him.
Invest in Bitcoin.
Well, yes.
That's a good one, to be fair. I think everyone should be saying that one.
Or really, it would be just be bold, be brave, take on challenges, really pursue your passion, be patient. Eventually, it will pay off. But just stick with it. There's going to be a lot of turmoil, a lot of pain you'll go through. But fortune favors the bold, as the old saying goes. And if you feel that you're doing something that's good, that's fun, that you enjoy, that you have a passion for, that's helping the world, and you're bringing something to the table that no one else can, stick with it. Stick with it. Don't rely on people. Rely on yourself. Don't rely on people to share that content. No, just make sure you're putting out great content. Eventually, people will share it, and then you'll see the benefits of that later.
Yeah, many powerful messages, and I think that concludes perfectly what we want to bring to tonight's show, especially with everything that you've mentioned through your experience, Hassan. And it's been a pleasure. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed as well. So Be sure, as always, to subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify also for audio listeners. And make sure to check out our social media content also. Everything's linked in the description. So it's been a great pleasure. Hashim, thanks again for coming on, being the co-host tonight. And Hassan, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Thank you for having me on, man. Appreciate it. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. And hopefully we'll catch you in the next episode, guys.